Hey, Augmentors. I'm Julie.
And I'm Jimmy.
And we know that great leaders have great mentors. And today we are joined by Kim Carpenter. She's an executive coach, an inspirational leader, and a person who knows that people need to be at the center.
On this show, you are going to learn how to connect authentically with others by learning the one key word that will help you immediately establish rapport with another human in any conversation.
I wonder what that would be.
We'll find out. Also, you are going to grow to your potential by being open to the possibility. I know it sounds strange, but be open to the possibility that you might not always be right. Correct. And lastly, the theme for this Augmentors episode is the principle of roadmap. Kim Carpenter will help you understand how to fill your backpack with experiences that enrich your augmentoring journey.
Kim Carpenter, we are so excited to have you on Augmentors today. How are you doing?
I'm fantastic. So great to be here with you.
You're cooling off in Austin a little bit. It sounded like it was a hot, sweaty summer.
It was a very hot summer. And yes, I think it's now 99 instead of 106 or 7 or 8. So we're celebrating. I don't know.
But you have really good tacos. Doesn't that make up for it?
We have great tacos, and it does make a difference, I've got to say. Yes.
I mean,
if it were not for tacos, I don't know. Could I live here? Maybe not.
Totally relatable. It's like, for me, it has to be good coffee. As long as like any place has good coffee, like we're going to be okay. If not, it's a non-go. But Kim, we're so excited to have you on. You and I have had a couple great conversations, and you are the CEO of an organization called People at the Center. And just the name alone led us to believe that you would be a great guest on Augmentors, because we are also about people at the center and creating these deep human-centric relationships. So we're going to talk about all of that. But before we get started, how we introduce our guests is we know that guests feel that a mentor is somebody who believed in them before they believed in themselves. So we'd love to hear who that was for you and what they saw.
When I think about a mentor, I think about my first mentor, and there have been several throughout my life, luckily. But the very first mentor I had was a college professor of mine, and he was wacky and wild, and the University of Texas really, I think, wanted him out of there. He was just way too out of the box
Unhinged
for them. And he would just encourage us to do wild things like, go outside and notice the quality of light, and just really thinking about life and the world in a different way. And I remember the very last day of class, I walked in and there was a cardboard box on the table, and I peeked in and there was just a ton of books. And he said, yep, take one of those. That's a gift for you. And it was my very first self-help book. And it was called Do It, Life 101 series. Just get off your butts. Like
what? I thought my husband wrote that.
But like the butts, like I want to do this, but I can't, or I really am inspired by this, but that's not possible. So that kind of butt. And I made my way through about half of the book, and it was so triggering for me that I put the book down for several months and eventually picked it back up again. But he was that kind of person for me. And I stayed in touch with him after I graduated and was in touch with him at various pivotal points in my life. I got a divorce, and I would just call him up and say, what are you doing? I my life is falling apart. Like, what advice, what guidance do you have for me? And he would say things like, what are you passionate about right now? And I remember at one key point, I said, I'm really passionate about this thing called coaching. And this was in the early 2000s, right? And I said, and I'm really interested in, the development of people. And I was a manager inside of a big ad agency in New York City. And he's like, well, you're never going to believe this, but I'm actually consulting for this organization called Coach You. And it was created by Thomas Leonard, the godfather of of coaching, and we're looking for somebody to help us like take our paper-based curriculum and put it online. And I was working at that time in advertising and digital marketing, digital media. And I was like, I could probably manage that project for you. So I ended up getting certified as a coach through that, being engaged with that project, which totally changed the trajectory of my life. So that mentor, he definitely saw me and he was curious about me, and he really inspired me to kind of own my brilliance and my light, and definitely changed my life forever.
Wow. I need to ask before we go too far, how did you stay in contact? How did you keep that connection after graduation? Like, I know you said you called him years down the road, but like, what did that look like, in the first couple of years out of school?
Yeah. My boyfriend at the time was actually working for him. The mentor was a commercial photographer. And so my boyfriend was working for him. So that was a really easy way to stay connected. So we had, this was before email and before cell phones. And so we had
You wrote
call.
letters or you called on your landline.
On the landline. So I was invited over for dinner parties and things like that. So I was invited into this person's kind of inner circle. And I think that made it really easy to bridge into a friendship relationship as well.
And what did he teach?
He taught commercial photography.
But also these incredible, like, deep life skills about.
Yeah. He was teaching commercial photography, but that's not what he was teaching. So what he was teaching was like, how do you become the human that you really want to be, or you feel like you possibly could be? And some students loved him. I loved him. Others, he was very polarizing, because it was confronting to be like, what do you mean? Think outside the box, or think about what's possible. He would talk a lot about wonder. He'd say, wonder is your soul's best friend.
What
and
a quote.
What?
Right?
He was a commercial photography instructor. Wonder is your soul's best friend. This feels like one of those things where there's like a secret book, like the title is, like some love story, but like deep inside there's like the actual like mystery, it's like all the clues of, like it feels like you went for like one thing, but when you open it, it was something completely different and like way better, because they don't actually teach Wonder is your soul's best friend class in school.
They
maybe
don't.
Yet. I don't know. Maybe Jenny. There you go. Giving you ideas.
Yeah, that'll be the next course I propose. It'll be a hell of a syllabus.
And so you did say, Kim, and I'd love to probe on this a little bit. You said that you felt uncomfortable when you first like read the book, and you at first were like, oh gosh, like, and so it feels like this mentor at the time was obviously being a professor and a mentor, and maybe this book also was, but you felt uncomfortable. How did that feel? And then how did it kind of come around?
Oh, I felt extremely uncomfortable. I remember being in college, and it's Texas, so we're sitting out by the pool in the summertime.
Aren't there two glorious Olympic-sized outdoor swimming pools at UT?
Well, this was a private one at my apartment complex, but yes, there's amazing facilities at UT. So, but I was reading this book, and there was just a point where the pages were getting wet from the swimming pool and getting crinkled. And I was really trying to make it through these chapters. I just remember it was teaching the basics of meditation and presence and being in the moment and looking at your limiting beliefs and the thoughts that hold you back. And it was just so triggering that I had to put it down. I just thought, I can't absorb any more of this right now. I'm not even reading the pages. I'm just kind of sitting here pretending to read the pages. So it was several months later, actually, I decided to move to Tokyo, Japan with my boyfriend and teach English. And so it was like,
wow.
Okay, yeah, we're on a big journey, and this is a journey, a really transformational journey in my life, and I need these life skills to help me actually get off my butt and do it and go. It makes me think about any type of growth experience. It's not comfortable. I don't know if I should say this on your podcast, but there's a phrase called AFGO, AFGO, another effing growth opportunity.
Another fucking growth opportunity.
I love
it. Name it, right? Just name it, because it's not comfortable. They're not comfortable. But on the other side of them, there is wonder and magic and possibility. If you told me when I was a younger person that I was going to be able to move to Tokyo, move to New York City and work in advertising and move to Canada, like I would just say, no, you're crazy. But having someone see in me that anything's possible, I'm capable of anything. Anything I could dream up is extremely valuable. And I think that's part of what's so special about mentorship.
When you were thinking about all these places and all the wonder you could go, did you ever think that the company that would bring you to Canada would be called The Vacuum?
Did you manifest
really
that?
Just like there's a strong pull that brought
it was
you
a
up.
strong pull. It was just like sucking me in. Sucking me in.
It's too funny.
Yeah. The vacuum was amazing. Was an amazing experience as well. Yes. And the website was vacuumsucks.com.
That's incredible.
Yeah, the Canadians have some of the best names.
Right? Great sense of humor.
Yes.
I was going to say, but it seems like this really opened you up, right? This kind of early experience, this person who was able to share this broad kind of idea of wonder happened to also give you this first opportunity to do a coaching training. I mean, talk about the universe just presenting, it's like, maybe I should do this. Oh, maybe you really should do this, because actually this company needs exactly your skill set to be able to do it on like a consulting project. That's bonkers. That's like definitely, the universe like putting things in your spot, but you were open to it and ready for it. Something we know that we hear a lot with mentors who are working with mentees is that idea of, as the mentor, you're kind of putting ideas out there and helping the mentee kind of see them, but they don't always see it, right? They don't always see how all of these things connect. What would you say are some of the ways that mentors can kind of help nudge mentees towards this, and maybe ways that mentees can keep their minds a little bit more open to be able to see these kind of big flashing signs that are pointing you in a specific direction?
So love that you've nailed that, because I think that's exactly it. Yeah. So what are some of the ways? I think having bite-sized projects to dig into is helpful, to be able to see, oh, I can do this, this is possible. And then I think it really depends on the personality of the person. And I work a lot in DISC communication styles and behavioral styles. So I think about some of my clients who have a more courageous style, like risk-taking style, and others that don't. So I think that as a mentor, you really need to look and see, like, how far can I push a person's comfort zone? And do I need to give them little bite-sized projects or bite-sized tasks or things to go test out in the world to see, are my assumptions true about myself? Or, is that just a limiting belief that I have? Can I actually do something bigger, do a bigger project, or sink my teeth into something bigger? And I think a lot of this can just happen in conversation when we're actually deeply, actively listening, and that gift of inquiry and curiosity, like wonder is your soul's best friend. Like when you bring that sense of, hey, I wonder if, and what could be possible. As a coach, I've got a whole, toolbox of questions that I could ask people. And sometimes when people say, I don't know, I'll say, what if you did know? What would the answer be? And sometimes the answer comes more often than not. It's interesting. What if you did know? What would the answer be? Or how could it be possible, right? Something's not possible. Well, I can't see that it's possible. Well, what would have to be in place for that thing to be possible? How could it work out? What would you need? If you had this, then it could be possible. What is the this? So
you're making me think, Kim, about those glorious outdoor pools at UT Austin, because as an 18-year-old Jimmy, I decided to go to a school in Maine, and it was snowing in October. And I remember being very cold, and my girlfriend at the time was in New Orleans. And I said, I must be the dumbest 18-year-old in the world. I could have been at University of Florida, Austin at pools, and I am freezing my tail off. And I should have asked, how could this have turned out better? How could it work? How could I be at a pool now? I never.
Exactly. Sometimes we can find indoor ones that are heated.
That's a very good point. A very good point. But I love that idea of I wonder. And I think that's something that has never come up for us before in these podcasts. I don't think we've had somebody bring that as like a tool for mentors. But I think that is such a great place because, of course, the one thing you should never do is should with a mentee, you should do this. Yeah, of course, like we all know that's, well, not we don't all know, but those of us who are thinking deeply about this kind of work would know that that's not usually the best word to use.
Mm-hmm.
But I wonder is a really great tool for using that. So I wonder if Kim, you could share a little bit more about the kind of work that you do now and that you've evolved, obviously, from kind of this early time, setting up coaching and then now working with all kinds of people. Can you tell us a little bit more about what kind of work you are doing now?
Yes, I'm so excited about this work. I feel that it's an interesting circling back to the corporate environment because I've got to tell you, like, when I left to start my coaching business for many years, I said, I'm not going to deal with corporate. Like that, that was a difficult experience for me.
We can relate to that. You are in a good company.
I hold down a job since 2009. So yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
Mine was 99.
And, yeah. And at one point, you've been out
Jimmy
for a
was
while.
8.
So I remember working, when I was a manager, leading people and trying to use some of the coaching skills that I was learning with them. I was actually criticized by a manager who said, you're spending too much time. Sometimes you just have to fire people. And, I strongly disagreed. I really fought to keep the people and help develop them, move them into different roles, perhaps, because they were incredibly talented people. And it ended up working out and we created an amazing team. And that team experience for me really is the like shining light, the thing that I come back to, like, this is how team could feel for people when we're working together and we're able to dig in and mess around with the hard conversations and disagree and, throw different ideas out and work through to the other side of it and still like go grab a beer after work. It's incredible. It's a great feeling. And in that team, we knew each other and we were at each other's weddings and births of children and things like that, right? So that human connection can be so healing and invigorating and extremely lucrative for the company when you have teams that are operating in this way. So people at the center really is about how can we put human beings at the center of the developmental strategy for the organization. So we're developing people so that the people develop the organization, grow the organization, achieve remarkable goals together that they couldn't do if the team wasn't as trusting and cohesive and connected. So that's what we're up to. And we start with working with the leaders because it is about people don't leave companies, they leave managers, right? So we start with trying to support managers to have more people-centric leadership skills. And then we work with the teams to further that and build the connection and teamwork and skills that create more innovation and rapid development.
Kim, you have actually a quote that I have written down from you is about that conversation with your boss at that time where the boss wanted you to fire people and you wondered to yourself, we're having too much fun at work? What's the problem here? I highlighted this before we talked and I wanted to bring it up. So way to lead me right to it. Did you feel in that moment, or could you realize in that moment that, some of the fun was actually it being such a productive team? Or was you just like, hey, there's just like enjoyment here? Like, could you see that you were doing more than a manager? You were also mentoring. I feel like there's so much in that line about having fun at work, which is, I think, very, very foreign to people now. They're like, have fun working from home, but they're not having fun at work with their people. Mm-hmm. Can you, if I can use more jargon, unpack that a little bit? About like, what did fun mean to you then? How do you look at it now?
Such a great question. Thank you for asking me that. So we did have a team that was friendly, right? And there was a level of real respect amongst each other. Like we really valued what we each brought to the table. And there was a lot of fun. And I was younger, I was in my early 30s and most of the team didn't have children or didn't have a lot of other responsibility outside of work. And so I think that can make it easier to hang out following the work environment. So we were having fun because we cared about each other. And we were also having fun creating the work that we were creating. And I think not everybody gets to do that. But when you work in a creative industry, advertising, digital marketing, we were creating really innovative, beautiful, interactive projects and things like the Metropolitan Museum of Art, 3D digital walkthrough experience that was the first time that was being done. And, we were working for different organizations that were creative in music and art and fashion and design. And so I think that when you get to do the thing that you love doing and that thing is being creative, that's fun. And then there's the business side of that, right? Because we work for an agency, we work for a company. And so we need to produce art, creativity, digital design rapidly. And, it doesn't always happen immediately if you're trying to be creative. So there's, I think, this balance of how do we achieve what we say we're going to do. We gave an estimate. We're going to create this project by this time. How do we manage the relationships with the clients who are often C-level executives who have stakeholders breathing down their neck to get whatever done because, there's an ad campaign going out to launch this thing or whatever. So I think that there's inside a business, there's that tension, that natural tension of we're here to produce something, but we can also be here and creating together. And so part of that's fun. And sometimes it's not always fun. Sometimes it's like, it's hard and you have to have hard conversations or you have to have conversations about trade-offs with clients and with your senior executives and things like that. So
was it happening that you were like, not just a colleague and a coworker, but you could like see, oh yeah, we are a friend. I also have beyond a social relationship, I have this mentoring relationship as well with this person where I'm excited when their pitch goes well for them, not just the company.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the person that I am. I have a company called People at the Center. So the most important thing to me are the human relationships. And I am, I have a high level of, rigor. Like, I
don't think those go together. I don't know, rigor.
I'm like, what's the right word here? High expectations, high achieving, big goals, big dreams. I think to be an entrepreneur, you kind of have to be a little crazy, right?
You're also in good company.
Yeah.
Too. Yes.
Yeah. And so it was an interesting relationship with my teams because there's this deep care for them as a human being. And there's also and we've all committed to getting X done by Friday. Mm-hmm. And so how are we going to make that happen? Right. Yep. And it's my job. I'm accountable for that. You're responsible for your individual parts, but how do we balance that? So it's yes, there's a care and I want you to succeed and I'm championing you and I'm celebrating you. And also wow, we've got to roll up our sleeves now and do the hard thing.
Do the hard thing, which I'm going to wonder is often listening is the hard thing. Have you found different or maybe kind of they've evolved your, deep listening techniques, your questioning techniques you dropped a little bit on us earlier? Have they changed for you based upon either the industry or your role? Because being a manager is very different from coming in as the consultant. How have you seen that change?
Well, I think I've seen it change just because I'm really committed to being more adept at questioning skills and inquiry and active listening. And it's a lifelong pursuit. And that I'm not a manager now, but I now have a team of people that work with me. And so I get to practice what I'm preaching, right? I'm teaching leaders and teams how to communicate in a way that, will be more effective and produce better outcomes. And I have to do that too. And it's not easy. Sometimes I'm I'm so mad right now. I'm so mad at this person. internally, and let me use my skills. Let me process through that. Let me go, okay, what am I making up about this situation right now? How can I be curious? Like, and sometimes you have to walk away and come back to a conversation, right? We are human beings at the end of the day. And I share a lot about neuroscience in my coaching practice. And, we all have brains. We all have amygdalas that get hijacked and
not
trigger.
proven. That's not proven.
That we all have brains.
Yeah, I can show you some examples that maybe not.
They don't all work exactly the same way, but we all have them.
That's a better way to put it. Yes.
Yeah. And, and I have a husband and teenager. So like I get to practice.
Teenage brain is a special place.
Yeah. So I too am a student, perpetual, forever, lifelong student of this. And so it has evolved because I've worked on it and I'm still working on it.
That's what we all are, right? A work in progress. You get up each day and hope you can do better than you did the day before. And if you didn't, then at least you can apologize, move on. But Kim, I'd love to follow up, if you don't mind, on Jimmy's question a little bit about, and I think you and I sort of jammed on this last time about being in the agency environment and kind of as like the early 2000s, 99, like we were doing. And then now like with the virtual workplace and how many, especially in the agency markets, what have you, as companies are really just moving to either fully remote or, very lightly hybrid. What are you seeing as a change? And are there ways that you're seeing teams connect potentially better, or ways that they're connecting in this new environment?
Yeah, it's a massive change. And it's interesting because I've always worked with hybrid teams. So when this thing came about, I was like, oh, when I was in the agency world, I was working for global organizations. So we would often have an engineering team sitting in India or Russia or somewhere. And we would have, the creative team here. And then we'd have this copywriter that would like fly in. And we'd have the TV commercial director who would be in San Francisco and he'd come to New York and shoot the thing, or we'd go, so I've just always had that. So it was interesting when people were feeling so shocked by the change because they were used to all sitting together in a common office. And so I think that people are using technology, sometimes well, sometimes not so well, to connect. And with new tools like Zoom, like Slack, Teams and other things, that people are finding ways to have that camaraderie and fun interaction in different ways, sharing maybe more about themselves, sharing photographs or aspects of their personal life or, funny GIFs or memes or whatever. I see more of that happening now that I think is connecting. I see companies doing things that are intentionally creating more space for sharing, so some of my clients, they take the first couple minutes of a meeting and go around and like, how is everyone doing really? Like not just I'm fine, but how are you really doing? Or like, what's one thing that you're really grappling with right now? And then having some follow-up conversations. And I think it's harder. I think it's harder to, obviously, nothing replaces the human to human interaction. So I'm really encouraging companies when they can afford it to bring people together live at least a couple times a year, whenever that can happen. And I think it is harder. And I think it's easier to just be on the clock and go from meeting to meeting to, virtual meeting to meeting to meeting and try to get a bathroom break in there, for 1 minute whenever you can. Like it's tough. And I think I'm wondering how sustainable this press is, the pressure to perform and produce and not have any breaks, and then work spilling into home life after and weekends. And, a lot of people are just not stopping working. So that is a concern.
And not getting necessarily as much done, but they're working.
That's right. Yeah. So where's that trade-off?
And then the real question is, where's the connection, right? Where is the connecting of humans that we're going back to, where there was time where you went to drinks with your coworkers, like you were describing, and you went to baby showers and you went to things because you were all together, like that connection. While there's, I believe, I think the productivity is, sort of debatable, because I do think it is quite productive working remotely, but you're missing that connection. And as we're thinking about supporting humans and connecting more authentically with each other and helping them grow to their potential, how are there any other ways you can see more of these connections? And maybe it's even developing connections outside of your organization within communities, just for ways for people to be able to connect more. Are you seeing any of your clients kind of finding ways that's working or being beneficial?
Yeah, I think you bring up a really good point about outside, so how can you get together live with people that do work in your area? Or how can you even have just a virtual cocktail hour with some folks, on Zoom? I think it's more of a way of being than like an activity. That's what's coming to me, Julie, as you're asking me this. I think that you can bring connection in any interaction with a level of depth and attentiveness and that active listening and leaning in. I think it typically takes a little more time, So how am I going to be like, wow, Julie, I noticed your face just changed a little bit when I was talking about that. Like, what's going on for you about that? Right? Like, just
hit the mosquito, Julie. That's all you have to do.
That happened last time. There was a mosquito.
Oh, it did. There was a mosquito. But I think that
you have to pay attention to do that on your part.
You have to pay attention. You have to pay attention. And so one of the blessings and curses of this, Hollywood Squares Zoom world is that you can see everybody's faces if they have their cameras on, which that's another topic. But, then you can also you actually notice, right? We're sitting around a conference room table, like you're not able to see every single person's reaction to whatever you're saying.
And if you're like dropping big news and you're like, say it, and then you're like, okay, zoom out. Then you're like, oh my God. How's everybody? Yeah. It's true.
So I think that what if we brought that quality of listening and care and connection, like intentionally, like I want people in this meeting to feel connected to themselves and what's important to them, and connected to each other and connected to whatever's being discussed. How might I run that meeting differently? Or what questions might I ask? That's my intention, rather than, all right, we got 30 minutes. We got to get through this. Let's get it.
Well, and it's also having like, what can I say? It's like, what's what I'm looking for? It's like also not being afraid of what the answer may be when you ask somebody how they're really doing. Because you may hear something that's going to make you uncomfortable, or you may hear something that you are going to have to figure out what to do with. So I think having that courage, that's the word I'm looking for, having that courage as a leader or as a colleague or as a friend to ask that question, and then be okay with maybe not knowing what else to say, not knowing how you're going to fix it, or not knowing, exactly what the next right move is. And I think in mentoring too, same, right? You can really ask deep questions and maybe get answers you don't know what to do with, but you have to be able to show up for that.
Yeah. And I think that, I love that so much. You just brought something in, like as a mentor, I don't think you have to have all the answers. And I think that's one thing that might keep people from leaning into mentoring is like, well, I'm not the be all expert in this one thing. And I don't know everything there is to know.
Yep.
Right.
In the whole world.
and that's okay. It's so funny. People are like, well, how am I going to help this person? This person wants to, I don't know, play with alligators, and, I'm terrified of reptiles. And it's like, well, you could still be a great mentor to this person. You don't have to be the crocodile hunter here. Like, you just need to show up and listen to this person and be okay with the unknown a little bit.
That's right.
And knowing where the relationship will go.
That's right. And I don't think we get enough experience in that in our lives as humans. Like, I don't think we get that much encouragement to lean into those uncomfortable times. So we think about our family structures and things, right? It's just like, oh, we don't talk about that. We sweep that under the rug. We avoid any kind of conflict or confrontation. And so I think that is a really critical skill for mentors.
And also being wrong, right? Because we go to school to try to be right, and you want to get all the answers right. You're always just trying to be right and to have it all right. So
and look good,
comfortable with being wrong. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I'm having so I started playing a sport that I hadn't played before, and I'm sometimes good at it and sometimes I'm quite inconsistent. Today I was like really bad. I was terrible. And I was like, what is going on? And I was just like, I'm never coming back. Like, if I'm not good at this, I'm never coming back because everybody's going to think that I'm really bad at this. And
Julie's going to take her ball and go home.
I'm going to take my ball and go home. That's like the story of my life. And it was fun. It was really interesting today. I could hear that voice in my head that was like, but you have to get it right. And it's like, no, you don't. You're just literally playing this like for fun, like obviously not trying to go pro. But I think so many of us feel that way, that we have to have it right. It's a big deal.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
It's a big deal. And I think as mentors and especially as leaders, right, you feel like you always have to have the answers. So I love that.
Kim, I'm curious if we could, in our time here, very briefly go through, and Julie, you told me this is a good idea, but I really like your pathtopromotion.com. I'm on that right now. I have it pulled up, and I was going to see how long you think it would take him. It would just be a couple minutes for me to see what my promotion opportunities are within Augmentors.
Okay, sure.
So we'll see how it goes, as if this is bad radio or not. But Kim, do you want to say what your pathtopromotion.com is, and then I can quickly go through it?
Sure. Yeah. So the Path to Promotion is a free assessment where we look at different aspects of your work that you need to set up or create in order to be promotable. So I structure this around what I have discovered are habits of highly promotable people.
Oh.
And I think that oftentimes people wait to be promoted, or they're like, if I just do a good job, then someone's going to recognize me and promote me. And oftentimes we need to help others, help the leaders around us to facilitate our promotion. We need to have conversations that are probably uncomfortable to have. And there are some things that we can set up just practically in order to be able to make that process hopefully accelerate.
I love it. Did you know that you made up a perfect Texas drawl acronym for habits of highly promotable people? HOPP. HOHPP.
Oh.
Okay. So I'm at yourpathtopromotion.com. The first section is vision and purpose. I have 4 questions that I need to answer on a scale of 1 to 9. The first one is, do I have a compelling written vision for my life and career in the next 5 to 10 years? I'm going to put down 9. Julie's going to butt in when I'm wrong and lying. Number 2 is, I have a detailed written plan for advancing within my company. I'm going to say 1, not very written. My promotion abilities are low with Julie around. 3, I know my core values and how they align with my company's values and mission. 10, I have a vision for my leadership impact and how I can contribute to others in a meaningful way. 10. Okay, Julie, you get the answer for me now. Leadership presence. I remain calm and grounded even in times of crisis or difficulty.
Is it a scale of 1 to 10?
Oh, yeah.
3.75.
I don't remain calm or in crisis or difficult. No, this is for me. You're answering for me.
I know.
Oh, I don't remain calm. Oh, okay. This is good feedback. I regularly model the way I expect my team to support each other.
Yes. I give you an 8.
I give you an 8. Okay. I am extremely confident in my ability to be the leader my team plus organization needs me to be.
Yes. 9. So awkward.
This is great. Others in the company at various levels call on me for leadership and guidance during challenging times.
Now, Jimmy, this is a self-assessment. You can't.
Okay. All right, that's 10. All right.
He's been waiting to have you on to ask all these questions. So this was his moment to jump in.
I'll answer some of these on my own because there's 4 for each and we have a couple more to do. But powerful communication is the next section. And I have honed my feedback skills. I effectively give correction and celebrate accomplishments often. What do you think, Julie? 8?
Yes.
Yes? Okay. Where did you come up? Because one of your pieces here is about communication and the importance of that as a coach, especially in giving feedback that is challenging to others. You even say on your website that we admit mistakes and take responsibility for everything in our purview because say that's where true power lies. So I believe you're talking about admitting mistakes.
Yes.
When did that click for you as being an unlock to additional way to empower others by helping them realize that admitting mistakes is not a weakness?
Great question. You know, if I'm honest, I think I really got that when I did the Landmark Forum. And there's something about accountability and owning, you know, being the creator of your life. But, you know, I'm a total development junkie. So I think it was that program, but it could have been a host of other programs that I've done. I saw it for myself. I saw that when I could give up being right and I could just really own what was happening and have a level of self-forgiveness for that, right? Like I did what I did. I didn't do what I didn't do. And that's just reality. What is left there for me to really get, you know, is that I own that, you know, I take responsibility for that. I take responsibility for the impact on others and myself for whatever I've done. That's extremely powerful.
Now, in a mentoring relationship, how can you help somebody understand that they don't have to be right? Because that's a different process when someone's kind of like maybe saying, I wonder if, maybe you shouldn't have accelerated through the red light.
So your question is, how do I, as a mentor, how do we get someone else to see that they don't have to be right?
Yeah. How do you help that person realize like, you know, being correct is not winning?
Right. I would ask a lot of questions about what's actually happening and what's the impact of what's happening. And there's a powerful coaching question that's, what might you need to let go of? Right. So I think that we are very attached to being right. In fact, there's some really incredible neuroscience evidence around this. If you want to Google, you're addicted to being right, there's a really great article by, I believe, Judith Glaser, who recently passed away, but has amazing body of work around neuroscience and the workplace. So we actually get a dopamine hit when we're right. It is actually addictive to our brains when we get to be right. And then the opposite happens for whoever you're making wrong. You get to be right and you're making others wrong, right? So that's an interesting thing to share with people.
Wow. That's huge. That's huge. I don't know if people would ever think of it that way.
No, I don't think we mostly know about that. You know, I think we just think, if you really think about it though, like how good does it feel when you get to be right, you know? It's like, yes, I have conversations with my 17-year-old and, you know, sometimes he's like, oh, I'm right about that, you know? And it's like this arms in the air champion feeling because it feels so good. Well, that's why.
This is a very good conversation for Virgo season. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying I have a Virgo in my life who's about to turn 21, who is a triple Virgo. Yes. And there is a deep, deep joy of being right. So interesting. I hadn't thought of that before, but especially when it comes to mentoring, you don't have to be right. You just have to wonder and ask good questions.
Yes. And there's actually a lot more power in that in many situations. Sometimes it's great if someone has the right answer and they just give it to you. You know, it's like, just go do this. I've been doing this for 50 years, you know, just go do this. That's good too. And I find, you know, I think that's the blessing in coaching is that this isn't about, we're not consultants because we have all the knowledge, you know, people come to us because we get to help them see what they already have inside of them, the wisdom that's already there. And if we could just, I think of it like peeling an onion, you know, we just like get those layers off your thoughts and habits around, you know, that keep you stuck. And you actually can see that you do have the answer. You do know, you can trust yourself.
And you can even trust yourself that you can improve. For example, I got my score back from.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
What did you say?
Are you promotable, Jimmy?
This is amazing, seeing some of the dichotomy between Julie and I, where Julie starts going off on triple Virgo. What the H does that mean? And I'm like, oh, Kim just sent me numbers. Great. Okay. The engineer is excited. So my commitment score of 18 says that I'm ready and willing to take the necessary steps on a breakthrough. which seemed good. So you gave me a little push, out of the nest.
Thumbs up.
That's good news.
However, I have a whopping 62 points to improve to get to 200 out of 200 because I am 138 out of 200, which means I'm further along than most, but I could still work on it a little bit to be fully ready to be promoted.
Kim, you'll have to come back on next year, or at least in the next 6 months after we've done our official reviews and see how Jimmy has improved.
Okay. Yes. I want to see the 360. I want to know.
This has been great, Kim. Thank you very much. I appreciate you letting me self-analyze publicly.
Or Julie analyze you? Yes.
That got pretty raw.
I can't wait for our outro. We're gonna deep dive on a lot of these things. We're definitely gonna deep dive on all of these things.
This is our rapid fire. It goes really quickly. I'm gonna say 4 words. Whatever comes to your brain right away, please say. Verbal Rorschach's test. When I say mentor, what comes to mind?
Gift.
When I say mentee,
Open.
How about sponsor?
Oh, are these definitions? Wait, am I doing this wrong? Am I right? Did I do it right? Am I getting
no way to be right.
No, wait.
There's no way to be right.
Okay.
There is no way to be right.
Okay, sponsor. Am I doing
Advocate.
it right? I love it. Advocate. And lastly, coach.
Me.
That's what I was thinking. That's okay.
Yes.
That was awesome. Kim, thank you so much for at least opening my eyes a lot about the idea of being right and not being right, and how mentors can really let go of that to be able to show up authentically for others. And I think that's a huge aha, as well as so many things you brought to us in this conversation. Thank you so much, Kim. We look forward to staying in touch and keeping people at the center.
Julie, are you ready?
I'm born ready. You know that.
AFGO.
AFGO. Always another freaking growth opportunity.
So is life. Life in the fast lane.
I think it's a gift, though, don't you think? I don't know. I'm a dork that way. Like, I really appreciate being stuck in the middle of situations where I'm just like, this is painful. I know I'm changing. I know I'm growing. To me, it's way better than everything being the same, everything kind of being okay.
So I kind of like Kim's approach here, where I know AFGO is technically like a jaded term, but to me, I took it more as, hey, just chalk it up to another fucking growth opportunity and it's going to be okay. Hey, you're growing. Don't be so negative. Just do it and move on.
Just do it and move on. And I think that is really the role of a mentor, right? To help you see that, like, right, this did not go how you thought it was going to go. You're in pain. You're uncomfortable. Like, oh, this relationship didn't go right, or this, opportunity didn't go right. But on the other side, there's so much growth. And so I think as a mentor, you can always see that. And when you are in the middle of it, sometimes you don't.
Life 101, get off your butts.
Get into it.
Get into your yes ands. Get off your butts.
Okay, but the one thing I really, really got out of this, is the idea that you can be addicted to being right.
Thankfully, I don't have that problem.
No, you don't.
Damn it. That's not the answer I want to hear, Julie.
You do not. You're very good at admitting when you're wrong. But
and being wrong. That's what you got to start with, being wrong before you can admit you're wrong.
I mean, it's all just another fucking growth opportunity. Yeah, that was an interesting one. I never, ever heard that. And I do think that ties exactly back to one of our key themes of humility, which is what is so necessary for a mentoring relationship. So obviously, if you are addicted to being right, you are not going to want to have a mentor, because a mentor might tell you that there are things you can improve on. So that's a really big one. And that actually is like, there's neuroscience around it. There's actually detailed research of the dopamine hit you get when you're right. Oof,
it's a good thing I don't do crosswords. I do think this is a really great point that ties into one of our favorite quotes, which is, all great leaders have great mentors, but not all great leaders are great mentors, because there is this expectation, especially in America and in business, about leaders need to be right. And there are these continued conversations about, leaders leave last, leaders lead from the front, leaders step back and listen, whatever you want to say it. It's all about trying to say, hey, it's okay if you're not correct. You can be the first person to fail. You can let others go first and win the day. You can let others speak. But it's a really kind of a big topic, actually, about letting go, about being correct and realizing you can win as a team and no one necessarily has to be right.
Exactly. And there's no one right answer. Like, I mean, I guess obviously if you're like doing a mathematical equation, there probably is.
You won't get caught dead doing that, Julie, so you're okay.
Most of the things I deal with, there is not one right answer. There are many right answers and there's lots of different ways to go about it. And I think not having this fixed mindset of, I know exactly which way we're going to do it and everybody has to go in this direction. And this just, I think, acknowledging that neuroscientific piece of it, understanding why you want to be right because it feels good, and then being able to let go of it. I think this is like a big thing, because when you know better, you do better. So if you know that that's maybe why you're holding on to it, you'll come up with some other dopamine hit, like jumping out of an airplane or riding roller coasters or
becoming an augmenter.
It's a great dopamine hit.
Seeing somebody else's success and caring about whether they are happy or feeling down in whatever their journey is, that is a huge dopamine hit. And there's no way to be right or wrong when you just genuinely show up for somebody else.
That is one of the most profound things you've ever said, Jimmy. At the end of this Kim Carpenter episode, I love that. That is a great reminder. That is one of the best dopamine hits around, is helping somebody else. And a great way to close out this time that we had with Kim. I think she'd be into that.
Thank you, Kim. Augmentors out.
Augmentors out. Wow, you've made it this far, and we thank you. Hopefully you enjoyed our episode and discovered new ways to bring more authentic connection into your mentoring relationships. Want to tell them more, Jimmy?
Be an augmenter with us. Visit our website for the best interactive mentoring content at augmentors.us. Share our podcast with someone you care about. Like and subscribe. And yes, really, you following our show and writing a review, it's a big deal. Your actions provide us with the resources to continue our undefeated, unencumbered, prize-winning productions. We welcome questions and suggestions via email hi@augmentors.us or on social with our handle @augmentorshq. We are most active and available on LinkedIn and YouTube. Shout out and earnest thank you to our intrepid producer, Erlin Cato. We appreciate you. Augmentors out.
See ya.